Welcome to Sleepy Tech Stories. Tonight is a soft walk with Alan Turing, not the headline version, but the evening rituals that made his thinking gentle and deep. Why now, in 2025, as we ask what thinking machines might mean for us? His quiet way of finding patterns can make your own night feel lighter. If these calm journeys help, you can subscribe and then let that thought drift away. Hold 3 small things in your mind. A bicycle chain that slips every so many turns. A tea mug kept safe by a little chain, and the spiral seeds of a daisy. We'll visit each in unhurried light. We'll begin with daily textures you can picture with your eyes closed. Drift to the years of patient code breaking. Pause with the gentle mystery of patterns in growing things. And end with a soft contrast between the public story and the private room. You don't need to remember any of it. You can listen or wander or sleep. For now, there's nowhere to be. There is a small room, not grand, not ceremonial. Yellow lamplight pools on a wooden table where a 10-year-old boy sits with a book that will change everything. The book is called Natural Wonders Every Child Should Know, and in its pages, stars and atoms dance together in the same mysterious waltz. Outside, the English countryside sleeps under a blanket of mist. Inside, a young mind discovers that the universe speaks in patterns, the same patterns that govern the spinning of planets and the beating of hearts. He reads about the dance of molecules, the secret language of light, the way flowers count their petals in mathematical spirals. This is Alan Turing at 10, already asking questions that will echo through a lifetime. Why do daisies arrange their seeds in perfect spirals? How do thoughts become real? Can a machine learn to think the way a child learns to wonder? The lamp flickers slightly, casting gentle shadows that seem to breathe with the turning of pages. He doesn't know yet that he will spend his life teaching machines to listen for patterns. He doesn't know that his quiet curiosity will help end a war and begin an age. He only knows that the book in his hands holds mysteries that make his heart race with the joy of discovery. The clock on the mantel ticks softly, keeping time like a patient metronome. Outside, an owl calls across the darkness. Inside, a mind begins its journey toward questions that will reshape the world. For now, there's nowhere to be. Your breath knows the way. Before the great machines, before the codes and the computers, there was a bicycle. A simple bicycle with a chain that slipped at predictable intervals, carrying a young man to work through the Cambridge countryside each morning. 15 pedal strokes, 16, 17. Then the chain would slip, and patient hands would guide it back into place without stopping, without dismounting, just a gentle correction in the rhythm of motion. His colleagues suggested he simply fix the chain properly, but he preferred this moving meditation, this dance of counting and correction that turned his commute into a kind of prayer. He wore a gas mask while cycling to combat his hay fever, breathing through the soft whoosh of filtered air, finding peace in the steady rhythm of inhalation and exhalation. The countryside rolled by in gentle waves, hedgerows and meadows. Morning mist rising from fields like thoughts, becoming visible. This is how genius often works, not in lightning flashes of inspiration, but in the patient repetition of simple acts, the counting of pedal strokes, the adjustment of a slipping chain, the steady breathing through filtered air. These small rituals create space for the mind to wander, to wonder, to find patterns in the seemingly random. Later, He would teach machines to count in their own way, to follow patterns and make corrections, to breathe in data and exhale understanding. But it all began here, on quiet morning roads, with the simple mathematics of motion and the gentle discipline of not fixing what could be lived with. The bicycle wheels turn like prayer wheels, each revolution a meditation on the beauty of imperfection made workable through patience and grace. For now, there's nowhere to be. Your breath knows the way. In the gentle language of sleep stories, let us speak of thinking machines, not as cold metal and circuits, but as patient students, learning to recognize patterns in the endless stream of human conversation. Imagine sitting behind a curtain, speaking with someone you cannot see. You ask questions, share thoughts, listen to responses. If you cannot tell whether your conversation partner is human or machine, does the distinction matter? This simple question, gentle as a child's riddle would, become known as the Turing test, a way of asking what it truly means to think. But Alan approached this question not as a challenge or competition, but as a conversation between minds. He imagined machines that could learn the way children learn, through patient repetition and gentle correction, not by memorizing answers, but by understanding patterns, by listening for the music beneath the words. He dreamed of electronic brains that could hold memories and instructions together, like a mind keeping its experiences and wisdom in the same quiet library, ready to recall either at a moment's notice. This was his vision for the ACE computer, the automatic computing engine, a machine that could remember its own thoughts. Think of it as teaching a very patient student to play a complex game. You don't give them every possible move to memorize. Instead, you teach them to recognize patterns, to see when situations are similar, to learn from mistakes with the gentle persistence of water wearing smooth as stone. The mathematics behind this is intricate, but the heart of it is simple. Intelligence is not about having all the answers, but about knowing how to listen for patterns, how to learn from experience, how to respond with understanding rather than mere repetition. In quiet moments, he would run these electronic minds in his imagination, watching them learn and grow, seeing them make mistakes and corrections, feeling proud when they began to recognize patterns he had never explicitly taught them. For now, there's nowhere to be. Your breath knows the way. There is a place where secrets grow like flowers in neat rows, where brilliant minds tend gardens of hidden meaning. This place is called Bletchley Park, and in its quiet huts and tree-lined paths, a war is being fought with pencils and patience rather than guns and noise. The German Enigma machine speaks in riddles, scrambling messages into seemingly random letters that dance and shift with each keystroke. But Alan knows that no pattern is truly random. There are always whispers of meaning hiding beneath the surface, like the mathematical spirals hidden in a daisy's center. He teaches machines called bombs to listen for these whispers, to hear the hidden rhythms in German messages the way a musician hears harmony beneath melody. Each click of the bomb is like a heartbeat counting toward peace, each mechanical rotation bringing the world one step closer to understanding. The work is patient and methodical, hours spent listening to the mechanical breathing of the machines, watching for the moment when chaos resolves into meaning, when the scrambled letters suddenly arrange themselves into words that can save lives. In the evenings, he walks the grounds of Bletchley Park, 58 acres of lawns and lakes, tree-lined avenues where the weight of secrets can be carried in silence. The gravel crunches softly under his feet, and somewhere in the distance, the gentle hum of machines continues their patient work. He cannot tell anyone what he does here. The victory, when it comes, will be silent. The lives saved will never know they were saved. But in the quiet satisfaction of a code broken, a pattern revealed, a message understood, there is a peace that needs no recognition. The war will end, and the machines will be dismantled, and the secrets will be locked away. But the patterns will remain, and the patient art of listening for meaning in apparent chaos will echo through all the thinking machines yet to come. For now, there's nowhere to be. Your breath knows the way. Before dawn breaks over the Cambridge countryside, footsteps begin their steady rhythm on empty roads. Left foot, right foot, breath in, breath out. This is how a brilliant mind finds peace, not in the silence of meditation, but in the moving meditation of miles covered in solitude. I have such a stressful job, he once said, that the only way I can get it out of my mind is by running hard. It's the only way I can get some release. But watching him run, you would see not stress, but grace, the steady rhythm of someone who has found harmony between body and mind, between the urgent questions of the day and the patient answers that come only in quiet moments. 50 kilometers from Cambridge to Ely and back, through villages still sleeping, past fields where morning mist rises like thoughts becoming visible. His feet know every stone in the path, every turn in the road. His breathing synchronizes with his heartbeat, and his mind clears like water settling in a still pond. He runs fast enough to nearly qualify for the British Olympic team, but speed is not the point. The point is the rhythm, the repetition, the way complex problems seem to solve themselves when the body is occupied with the simple task of moving forward. Sometimes other runners join him for part of the way, but mostly he runs alone, carrying his thoughts like a gentle burden that grows lighter with each mile. The countryside rolls by in gentle waves, hedgerows and meadows, stone walls and wooden gates. The eternal English landscape that has watched countless minds work through countless problems in the patient rhythm of footsteps on ancient paths. When he returns home, the urgent questions are still there, but they seem smaller, somehow more manageable. The running has not solved them, but it has created space around them, room to breathe, room to think, room to approach them with the patient grace of someone who knows that the best solutions come not from force, but from gentle persistence. For now, there's nowhere to be. Your breath knows the way. The second half of our gentle journey grows quieter still. Fewer grand discoveries. More room for the small human moments that make a life worth living. In a hut at Bletchley Park, there is a tea mug chained to a radiator with a combination lock. A small act of protection in a world of secrets. His colleagues, brilliant codebreakers, all could probably crack the combination in minutes, but they respect the ritual. The mug is not really about security. It's about the comfort of routine, the small ceremonies that make a day feel like home, even in the midst of history. Each evening, the soft clink of chain against ceramic as he prepares his tea, the radiator's gentle warmth, the steam rising from the cup like incense in a quiet chapel. These moments are not recorded in the history books, but they are the foundation upon which great work is built. The tea grows cold as he works, forgotten in the intensity of listening for patterns, but the mug remains, chained and patient, waiting for the next pause, the next moment of human comfort in the endless stream of mechanical precision. There is something beautiful about this small rebellion against efficiency, this insistence that even in the most urgent work, there must be room for the rituals that remind us we are human. The chained mug becomes a symbol of the gentle stubbornness that refuses to let the world's demands erase the small comforts that make life bearable. In your own life, you have such rituals too. The way you arrange your desk, the cup you prefer for morning coffee, the small acts of care that create islands of familiarity in the ocean of daily chaos. These are not inefficiencies to be optimized away. They are the threads that weave meaning into the fabric of ordinary days. For now, there's nowhere to be. Your breath knows the way. In a quiet garden, a brilliant mind crouches among the daisies, counting. Not counting flowers, but counting the spirals in their centers, the mathematical patterns that nature writes in petals and seeds, the same patterns that govern the arrangement of leaves on a stem and the chambers of a nautilus shell. 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21. The Fibonacci sequence, hidden in plain sight in every flower, every pinnacone, every spiral galaxy. He watches these patterns emerge with the wonder of a child discovering that the universe speaks in numbers, that mathematics is not an abstract invention, but the very language of growth and beauty. This is morphogenesis, the study of how patterns form in living things. He approaches it not as a cold analysis, but as a conversation with nature, asking how simple rules can create such complex beauty, how chemicals can dance like invisible artists, painting stripes on zebras and spirals in sunflowers. Imagine chemicals spreading through tissue like ink through water, but following mathematical rules that create order from apparent chaos. Two chemicals, one that encourages growth and one that inhibits it, diffusing and reacting in patterns that emerge like music from silence. He works out the equations by hand, page after page of careful calculations that describe how a leopard gets its spots, how a zebra gets its stripes, how a daisy arranges its seeds in perfect mathematical spirals. The mathematics is complex, but the wonder is simple. Nature is an artist who paints with numbers. In the garden, surrounded by the living proof of his equations, he finds a peace that no laboratory could provide. Here, mathematics is not abstract, but alive, growing in the soil, reaching toward the sun, following patterns as old as life itself. The daisies don't know they are mathematical marvels. They simply grow, following the ancient rhythms encoded in their cells, creating beauty through the patient application of simple rules, repeated countless times. For now, there's nowhere to be. Your breath knows the way. In a Manchester living room, an awkward genius sits cross-legged on the carpet, patiently teaching a 7-year-old girl the logic of solitaire. His stammer softens as he explains the rules, his brilliant mind finding joy in the simple pleasure of sharing knowledge with someone who listens without judgment. Maria Greenbaum will remember this moment decades later, not the mathematical theories or the code-breaking achievements, but the gentle man who took time to sit on the floor and play cards, who wrote her detailed letters explaining the game's strategy, as if she were a fellow scholar worthy of his careful attention. Warm and friendly, she will say, despite his reputation for social awkwardness, because genius, when it meets innocence, often reveals its most human face. The complex mind that can break impossible codes finds equal satisfaction in teaching a child to see patterns in a deck of cards. The afternoon light slants through the windows, casting gentle shadows on the carpet where cards are arranged in careful rows. Outside, the world moves at its urgent pace, but inside, time slows to the rhythm of patient explanation, gentle correction, shared discovery. This is intimacy of a different kind, not romantic love, but the deep human connection that comes from one mind helping another to see. The child learns the game, but more importantly, she learns that brilliant people can be kind, that intelligence need not be intimidating, that the greatest minds often find their greatest joy in lifting others up. In your own life, you have been both teacher and student in such moments. You have sat with someone who patiently explained what you didn't understand. You have taken time to share what you know with someone who needed to learn. These moments of gentle teaching and learning are the threads that bind us together across all our differences. For now, there's nowhere to be. Your breath knows the way. Let the technical terms settle into gentler shapes, like shadows softening at dusk. The Turing machine is not a machine at all, but an idea, patient librarian moving along an infinite shelf of books, reading one page at a time, following simple rules, yet capable of writing any story that could ever be told. Imagine this librarian with infinite time and infinite paper, able to read a symbol, write a symbol, move left or right along the shelf, and remember which rule to follow next. These simple actions, repeated endlessly, can solve any problem that can be solved, can compute any number that can be computed, can tell any story that can be told. This is the essence of all computing, distilled to its purest form. Every smartphone, every laptop, every supercomputer is simply a very fast version of this patient librarian, following rules and moving through memory, reading and writing the symbols that encode our digital dreams. But Alan saw beyond the mechanics to the deeper question. What are the limits of computation? What problems can never be solved, no matter how patient the librarian, no matter how infinite the shelf? He proved that some questions will always remain unanswered. Some stories will always remain untold, not because we lack the tools, but because the questions themselves contain a kind of beautiful impossibility. This is not a limitation, but a liberation. It means that mystery will always remain, that wonder will never be fully explained away, that there will always be room for the human heart to find meaning beyond the reach of any machine. The infinite librarian continues their patient work, reading and writing in the vast library of possibility. But they do so knowing that some books will always remain unwritten. Some stories will always remain untold. And in that knowing, there is a kind of peace. For now, there's nowhere to be. Your breath knows the way. In quiet stories, we hold difficult truths gently, like fragile birds that need care but not crushing. There are shadows in every life, moments when the world fails to understand what it should celebrate, when brilliance is met with fear instead of gratitude. In 1952, the same mind that helped win a war, that laid the foundations for the digital age, that found mathematics in the growing of flowers, was prosecuted for the simple fact of loving differently than the law allowed. He faced this persecution with what his colleagues called amused fortitude, refusing to let the world's failure to understand derail his work or diminish his wonder. He chose chemical treatment over prison, a choice that would alter his body but not his mind, not his curiosity, not his gentle persistence in asking the questions that mattered. He continued his work on morphogenesis, continued his long runs through the countryside, continued to find patterns in the chaos and beauty in the mathematics of living things. This is resilience of a different kind, the loud defiance of anger, but the quiet persistence of someone who knows that the work matters more than the world's opinion of the worker. Like a river that finds its way around obstacles without losing its essential nature, he continued to flow toward understanding. The persecution was real, the injustice profound, but it was not the whole story. The whole story includes the morning runs, the patient teaching, the gentle explanations, the wonder at patterns in flowers, the quiet satisfaction of problems solved and codes broken. In your own life, you have faced moments when the world failed to see your worth, when your gifts were misunderstood or unappreciated. In those moments, remember the patient river, the gentle persistence, the knowledge that your value does not depend on the world's ability to recognize it. For now, there's nowhere to be. Your breath knows the way. We love to tell stories of individual genius, but the digital world we inhabit was built by countless hands, countless minds, countless quiet contributions that never made headlines. The computers that start without complaint, the networks that carry our messages across oceans, the algorithms that help us find what we're looking for. These are the work of many, not one. Alan's ideas became the foundation, but foundations are meant to be built upon. Students took his theories and made them real. Engineers took his designs and made them practical. Programmers took his vision and made it useful. Each contribution was small, but together they created the digital symphony we live within. In the quiet hours of the night, when you send a message to someone far away, when you search for an answer to a question, when you watch a video or listen to music streaming through invisible networks, you are benefiting from this chorus of contributions. Most of the names are forgotten, but the work remains. This is how progress really happens, not in dramatic breakthroughs, but in the patient accumulation of small improvements, each building on the last, each making the next step possible, like a cathedral built over centuries by countless craftsmen, each adding their skill to a vision larger than any individual could complete. Alan understood this. His papers were filled with acknowledgments, with references to others' work, with the humble recognition that even the most brilliant insights stand on the shoulders of those who came before. He saw himself not as a lone genius, but as part of a conversation that began long before his birth and would continue long after his death. In your own work, you are part of this same conversation, adding your voice to the chorus, contributing your small part to the larger symphony of human understanding. For now, there's nowhere to be. Your breath knows the way. Bring this gentle wisdom to your own quiet hours. There is a desk you can clear, a problem you can approach with patient curiosity instead of urgent force. There is a pattern waiting to be discovered in the apparent chaos of your daily life. You don't need to break codes or build computers to use Alan's approach to thinking. You need only the willingness to sit with a question, to walk around it like he walked around the grounds of Bletchley Park, to let your mind run free like he ran free on the Cambridge roads. Imagine approaching your challenges not as battles to be won, but as puzzles to be understood, not forcing solutions, but creating space for them to emerge, not rushing toward answers, but learning to ask better questions. You can practice the art of mental rehearsal, running scenarios in your imagination before committing to action. You can learn to see patterns in your own life, the rhythms that work, the habits that serve you, the small rituals that create islands of peace in busy days. You can chain your own mug to your own radiator, metaphorically speaking. Create small ceremonies of comfort that remind you that efficiency is not the only value, that there is room in even the most productive life for the gentle inefficiencies that make us human. Most importantly, you can remember that the greatest minds are often the gentlest ones, that brilliance and kindness are not opposites but companions, that the most profound discoveries often come from the most patient observation. Tonight, let your mind run free on its own quiet paths. Let your thoughts settle like mist in a peaceful valley. Let the patterns emerge in their own time, in their own way. For now, there's nowhere to be. Your breath knows the way. On a June evening in 1954, a brilliant mind finally found rest. Beside his bed, a partially eaten Apollo, final mystery, peaceful as winter sleep. He had been fascinated by Disney's Snow White, often reciting the witch's incantation. Dip the apple in the brew. Let the sleeping death seep through. But this is not a story about endings. It is a story about the questions that outlive the questioner. The patterns that continue to unfold long after the pattern finder has gone to rest. The apple beside his bed becomes not a symbol of tragedy, but of the eternal human curiosity that drives us to taste knowledge. Even when knowledge carries risk, his questions live on in every computer that learns, every algorithm that recognizes patterns, every artificial mind that struggles toward understanding. The Turing test continues to challenge us. What does it mean to think? How do we recognize intelligence? When does a machine become more than the sum of its parts? In laboratories around the world, researchers still study morphogenesis, still marvel at the mathematical patterns that govern growth and form. In gardens everywhere, daisies still arrange their seeds in Fibonacci spirals, still demonstrate that nature speaks in the language of numbers. The loneliness that the title promised was real, the solitude of a mind that saw further than its time, that asked questions the world wasn't ready to answer. But loneliness is not the whole story. The whole story includes the connection he made with every mind that followed, every student who learned from his insights, every person who benefits from the digital world his vision helped create. He sleeps now in the quiet of history, but his thoughts continue to run like algorithms in the vast computer of human knowledge, processing new data, generating new insights, asking new questions that will outlive us all. For now, there's nowhere to be. Your breath knows the way. The laboratory grows quiet. The equations settle into their final forms. The patterns he discovered continue their eternal dance in flowers and computers, in the spiral of galaxies and the structure of thought itself. What remains is not just the machines he envisioned or the codes he broke, but a way of being in the world, patience with complexity, curiosity about patterns, the gentle courage to ask questions that have no easy answers, the willingness to sit with mystery until understanding emerges like dawn breaking over a quiet landscape. These are human qualities that transcend any single field of study. You can carry them into your own work, your own relationships, your own quiet moments of wonder. You can approach problems with the same patient curiosity he brought to everything from German codes to growing daisies. You can practice the art of mental rehearsal, running ideas in your imagination before committing them to reality. You can learn to see the patterns that connect seemingly unrelated things. You can find the mathematics hidden in everyday beauty, the algorithms that govern your own habits and choices. Most importantly, you can remember that the greatest discoveries often come not from force, but from gentle attention, not from rushing, but from the patient willingness to sit with questions until they reveal their secrets. If your eyes are heavy, let them close. If sleep is calling, let it come. The patterns will continue their dance, whether you watch or not. The questions will wait patiently for tomorrow's light. The gentle mind that broke codes and found infinity in flowers has shown us that rest, too, is part of the rhythm of discovery. The story is grateful to have carried you this far, through quiet rooms and morning runs, through gardens and laboratories, through the patient work of understanding what it means to think, to wonder, to find patterns in the beautiful chaos of existence. For now, there's nowhere to be. Your breath knows the way. We walked slowly through a life, often told too quickly, too loudly. We let bicycle wheels become prayer wheels, and codes become conversations, and flowers become teachers of hidden mathematics. We made room for small rituals and quiet moments. We remembered that the greatest minds are often the gentlest ones. If you are still awake at this threshold, tuck this soft thought into your pocket. Patterns are everywhere, waiting to be discovered by patient eyes and curious hearts. Your own life is full of such patterns, rhythms that serve you, habits that sustain you, small ceremonies that create meaning in ordinary days. Let the night be gentle. Let the questions settle like leaves on still water. Let the patterns emerge in their own time, in their own way. If you've drifted off, the rest is silence and the soft sound of breathing. If you're still listening, we're at the doorway of sleep, where thoughts become dreams, and dreams become the quiet mathematics of rest. You can step through whenever you're ready. The patterns will be there when you wake, patient as daisies counting their spirals, eternal as the questions that make us human. For now, there's nowhere to be. Your breath knows the way.